Welcome back to Educator.com's English Grammar course. This lesson is about 10 sets of commonly confused words. Let's get started. Okay, this lesson is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to do any practice questions on this one because we're just going to go over how to remember 10 sets of commonly confused words, which one to use at which time. So, we're going to look at affect and effect, which one do you use when. We're going to look at when to use fewer and when to use less. Imply versus infer. It's and its, which drives everyone crazy. Lie and lay. Than and then. That and which. There, and there. Who versus whom. And your versus your. All right, affect versus effect. Affect is always, almost always, a verb. It means to have an impact or influence on. Now, the way to remember affect is it starts with A. Affect is an action. My affection, which is in fact where we get the word affection, affects my actions. Look at those A's. When you're trying to remember how to use affect, remember that it is an action. I affect the world around me. Effect is usually a noun meaning result or impact. It can also mean to implement, usually in the context of the phrase to effect change. But usually, it's a noun. So, just remember the movie E.T. E.T. was a movie about an alien by Steven Spielberg. It had a lot of special effects. So, remember, my affection affects my actions. A is for action, affect is an action, and E.T. had special effects, the result of something you did. All right, fewer versus less. This one drives me absolutely crazy. When someone says, yeah, I have less cats than he does. No, you don't have less. Fewer is used for objects that can be counted. More, fewer. Less is used with things that cannot be counted. Now, if you look at our lesson on nouns, you'll see the difference between count and non-count nouns. But for now, just remember, fewer ferrets. You could count ferrets, 1 ferret, 2 ferrets, 3 ferrets. And less love. You can't count love. You can't say 1 love, 2 loves, 3 loves. So, just remember, use fewer for things you can count, like ferrets, and less for things you can't count, like love. All right, imply versus infer. This one will drive your teachers absolutely nuts if you mix it up, and sometimes it drives your teachers nuts privately. Imply means to suggest or state indirectly. You're saying something and you're implying, you're giving the impression of something a little extra or something else. To infer is to draw conclusions from evidence. That's what Sherlock Holmes does in pretty much all of his stories. The way you remember which one is which, remember that they go in alphabetical order. Imply, I am, has to happen before infer. Imply, I am, imply, I imply something as I speak, and you, listening to me, you infer based on the evidence that I've given you. Someone has to imply before someone else can infer. So, remember that they stay in alphabetical order in time. All right, it's versus its. Please, please, please remember this one. It's, I-T apostrophe S, is a contraction of it is or it has. It's always a contraction, never anything else. ITS, without the apostrophe, is the possessive form of it. The way you remember this? Remember the sentence, it's raining. See this apostrophe right here? Think of it as a raindrop. You always use the contraction form to say it's raining because it's short for it is raining. Now, how do you remember the possessive form that has no raindrop, no apostrophe? Think of a hamster in its hamster ball. If it's inside its hamster ball, water can't get in. There is no rain inside a hamster ball. So, the hamster in its hamster ball has no raindrops. So remember, the apostrophe is a raindrop. It's raining. You use the contraction. If you're talking about the hamster in its hamster ball, no rain, no contraction, no apostrophe. All right, lie and lay. This one drives people nuts, but it's easy to remember. To lie means to recline, to lie down. To lay means to put or place. Now, if you're a grammarian, you would remember that lie is an intransitive verb. It does not take a direct object. You don't lie anything. And lay is a transitive verb. It does take a direct object. You lay things. But for those of us who don't speak grammar, just remember, lovers lie in two senses. They fail to tell the truth and they lie down. And chickens lay. Chickens lay eggs. So, ask yourself, if you're trying to decide whether you are lying or laying, next time you say, I'm going to go lay down, ask yourself, am I a chicken? You're not a chicken. You're going to go lie down. Lovers lie, chickens lay. All right, than versus then. I see this misused all the time, especially on the internet. Than, with an A, is a preposition that's used for comparisons. Then is an adverb which means at that time or therefore. The way you remember this, when you see than with the A, think of apples. This apple is better than that one, especially since that one appears to be an orange. So, this apple is better than that one. Than, think of comparing apples, or you think of the A in comparing. The way you remember then is it rhymes with when. When does something happen? Then. So, this apple is better than that one. When? Then. All right, that and which. Grammar explanation first, real world explanation second. That is used for restrictive clauses. That's where you're taking, going from a large category of something and you're narrowing it down to a smaller something within that category. Which is used for non-restrictive clauses, which basically supply extra information. They don't narrow it down at all, they just give you extra details. The way to remember this, think of cats. We have here a picture of two cats. Cat number 1, cat number 2. Now, let's say I am talking about the cat that is fatter. Remember that at noise, the cat that, a cat that is fatter? Now, for a cat to be fatter, you have to have at least two cats. One cat that's less fat and one cat that's fatter. So, for a cat to be fatter, it has to be a restrictive clause. You have to be narrowing it down from 2 or more cats to one cat, the cat that is fatter or fattest. Now, for which, think about witches. You've probably seen a billion cartoons where there's the nasty old witch with the warts on her nose and the big cauldron and the black cat. There's one cat. You ever notice that? They never have like a house full of cats. You never see a cartoon witch who's a crazy cat lady. You see a cat with one cat per witch. So, the witch's cat, which is black. The cat's always black in these cartoons, and there's only one cat. So we're just adding extra information about the cat. You don't narrow it down at all by saying it's black, because the witch only has one cat. The witch's cat is always black, so the witch's cat, comma, which is black. So when you're trying to remember that and which, ask yourself, am I talking about a cat that is fatter, or the witch's cat which is black? Which is used for non-restrictive clauses, and that for restrictive ones. Okay, there, and there. This one drives everyone absolutely berserk. There, T-H-E-I-R, is the possessive form of they. There, T-H-E-R-E, refers to a place, over there. And there, notice that apostrophe is a contraction of they are. Well, how do you remember this one? Just remember one sentence in which all 3 of these are used in alphabetical order. As long as you can alphabetize and remember this sentence, you'll remember which one is which. Their car, the car belonging to them, is over there, pointing, and they are there in it. Their car is over there, and they're in it. As long as you can remember your alphabet in this one sentence, you will never have problems with there, and there again. All right, who versus whom. This is actually an area of what's called hypercorrection, where people using English, they use whom to try to sound better educated and more erudite, and they usually use it incorrectly. Here is how to actually tell when to use who and when to use whom. Who is a subject. Now, you might remember from grammar that the subject of the sentence is what performs the action. Whom is an object. And again, if you've taken grammar, you know that an object is what receives the action. Now, how do you actually remember this? Just remember he and him. Okay, if it ends with a vowel, like O or E, who can be replaced with he. Whom can be replaced with him. So, for example, you pick up the phone and you say, who's calling? Then somebody else might say, he is calling, and you say, why are you referring to yourself in the third person? But you can replace the who in the sentence, who is calling, with he. Now, this is one that I hear all the time when people answer the phone. It drives me nuts. They say, who are you calling for? Well, first of all, never end a sentence with a preposition. And second of all, it should be whom. For whom is he calling? Whom, in this case, is the object of the preposition for. So, for whom is he calling? For him. We can replace whom with him, and it makes perfect sense. Now, the reason he and him is helpful here is because if you switch them, it doesn't work at all. You wouldn't say him is calling. No, you'd say he is. So it should be who is calling. You wouldn't say, I'm calling for he. You would say, I'm calling for him. Therefore, for whom am I calling? This is how to tell who and whom. Just remember he and him. Who is he and whom is him? All right, and finally, your and your. Actually, to judge by the internet, pretty much everyone has given up on this distinction, but you are going to be the last person who can actually get it straight. Your is the possessive form of you, okay? Here's another possessive pronoun that doesn't have an apostrophe, just like it's a few slides ago. Your is a contraction for you are. Now, the way to remember which one is which, just remember, your door, the door that you actually own. They both end with R. If you're talking about something you actually own, your door, okay? Now, by contrast, you could also say your sore. They both end with RE. You couldn't say you are door or your sore. You would say your door, RR, your sore, RE, RE. So if you're ever trying to figure out which one you're using, just substitute whatever comes after it. Substitute either door or sore. If door works, okay, then you want your with just the R. If sore works, then you want your with the RE. So if someone says on Facebook, for example, I really liked your picture, you could just as easily say, I really liked your door. So it's the one with just the R. But if you say, you're the best friend ever, well, just replace the best friend ever with sore, you're the best friend ever, and you know that you have to use RE because sore ends with RE. So just remember, your door, your sore, and you'll get your and your straight. And that's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching Educator.com.